Welcome back, everybody, to the Truth Channel. We are reading The Crucifixion and Death of Jesus Christ by Kelli Ritter. This book gives the medical aspects of crucifixion and gives you an idea of what Jesus suffered through. And we will continue reading. We are in we are on archaeological evidence. This chapter has to do with the body that they found in an ossuary in Jerusalem. They found a heel bone that had nails through it. Despite the fact that the ancient Jewish historian Josephus, as well as other sources, refer to the crucifixion of thousands of people by the Romans, there is only a single archaeological discovery of a crucified body dating back to the Roman Empire around the time of Jesus, which was discovered in Jerusalem. However, it is not surprising that there is only one such discovery, because a crucified body was usually left to decay on the cross and therefore would not be preserved. The only reason these archaeological remains were preserved was because family members gave this particular individual a customary burial. The remains were found accidentally in an ossuary with the crucified man's name on it. Yohanan, the son of Haggakoi. The ossuary contained the heel with the nail driven in its side, indicating that the heels may have been nailed to the sides of the tree, on one on the left side and one on the right side, and not with both feet in front one on top of the other. The nail had olive wood on it, indicating that he was crucified on a cross made of olive wood or an olive tree. Since olive trees are not very tall, this would suggest that the condemned was crucified at eye level. Additionally, the piece of olive wood was located between the heel and the head of the nail, presumably to keep the condemned from freeing his foot by sliding it over the nail. His legs were found broken. This is consistent with the account of the execution of the two thieves in the Gospel of St. John 19:31. It is thought that since in Roman times iron was expensive, and nails were removed from the dead body to cut the cost, which would help explain why only one has ever been found, as the back of the nail was bent in such a way that it could not be removed. Other details, some Christian theologians, beginning with St. Paul, writing in Galatians 3:13, have interpreted an allusion to crucifixion in Deuteronomy 21:22-23. This reference is being hanged from a tree and may be associated with lynching or traditional hanging. However, ancient Jewish law only allowed 4 methods of execution: stoning, burning, strangulation, and decapitation. Crucifixion was thus forbidden by Jewish law. Forms of crucifixions. Famous crucifixion. Jesus of Nazareth, the best known case of crucifixion, was condemned to crucifixion, most likely in 80 or in 30 or 33 CE by Pontius Pilate. the Roman governor of Judea. According to the New Testament, this was at the instigation of Jewish leaders who were scandalized at his claim to be the Messiah. The rebel of slaves of the Third Slave War between 73 BCE and 71 BCE, a band of slaves eventually numbered about 120,000 under the at least partial leadership of Spartacus, were in open revolt against the Roman Republic. The rebellion was eventually crushed, and while Spartacus himself most likely died in the final battle of the revolt, approximately 60 of his followers were crucified along the 200-kilometer road between Carpel and Rome, as a warning to any other would-be rebels. St. Peter's crucifixion. Apostle. According to tradition, Peter was asked to be crucified upside down at his own request, hence the cross of St. Peter, as he did not feel worthy to die in the same way as Jesus, for he had denied him 3 times previously. Note that upside-down crucifixions would not result in death from asphyxiation. St. Andrew, Apostle, Christian, according to tradition, crucified on an X-shaped cross, hence the name St. Andrew's Cross. Simon of Jerusalem, second bishop of Jerusalem, crucified 106 or 107, 44 AD, 106 or 107 AD, according to Joachim of Nizhny Novgorod, reportedly crucified upside down on the royal doors of the Cathedral of Sevastopol, Ukrainian SSR, 1920. Welgefortis was venerated as a saint and represented as a crucified woman. However, her legend comes from a misinterpretation of the full-clothed crucifix of Luca. Crucifixion in popular culture. Crucifixion was popular in culture. Many representations of crucifixion can still be found in the popular culture, both in various mediums, including cinema, sports, digital media, anime, pop music, and among others. Crucifixion-type imagery is employed in several of the popular films, video games, music, and even professional wrestling. Movies dating back to the days of the silent films have depicted the crucifixion of Jesus. Most of these follow the traditional and often inaccurate pattern established by medieval Renaissance artists. Though there have been several notable exceptions. In the Passover plot, 1976, the 2 thieves are not shown on either side of Jesus, but instead one is on his cross behind him and facing him, while the other is on the cross facing and in front away from him. Ben-Hur, 1959, may be the first biblical movie to show the nails driven through the wrist rather than the palms. It is also one of the first movies to show Jesus carrying the crossbeam to Calvary rather than the entire cross. The Last Temptation of Christ is the first movie to show Jesus naked on the cross. In the Gospel of John, 2003, Jesus' feet are shown being nailed through the ankle to each post of the upright portion of the cross. The Passion of the Christ 2004, the crucifixion depicts Jesus' hands being impaled and the centurion laying his shoulder in order to impale the right hand, and impaling his feet, then turning the cross over to block the nails from coming out. The next chapter we'll be reading in this book is how was the man on the Shroud of Turin crucified? And this is an interesting topic, considering the Shroud of Turin is Jesus Christ's burial cloth and his resurrection cloth, as we cannot explain the image on the cloth and how it got there. All we know is it was created by 6.8 trillion watts of radiation energy, a process that which man has not obtained and cannot obtain. We cannot produce this image, no matter how hard we try. The Shroud of Turin is the most studied artifact in the world. It is the burial and resurrection cloth of Jesus Christ, and even has the moment of his resurrection imprinted on it. The first pictures of the Shroud of Turin were taken in 1890 by Secondo Pia. When he developed that film, he noticed that the images were a photographic negative with an image on it that was on a non-negative photographic material. Now, in ancient times, and even back in that time, people weren't thinking create an image of that comes in the negative. Nobody was thinking about that in ancient times, especially because photography was not invented back then. So this has to be the burial cloth and resurrection cloth of Jesus Christ. There's no other way to explain it. It has all the marks of crucifixion, from the crown of thorns to all 340 scourging marks, to the nail wounds to the wrist and feet, to this Roman spear pierced through the side, and every other crucifixion marking that Jesus had. So you should try and find the book, The Shroud of Turin, The History and Mystery of the Shroud by Kelli Ritter. It is a good book to read. If you want more information on the Shroud of Turin, you can find that book, I think, on Amazon.com. Okay, this concludes this episode. Thank you for joining me. We will continue next time with episode 13. Thank you.